Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Brendan Rodgers faces his toughest test yet as Celtic manager. Hapoel Beersheva stand in his side's way to try and stop them getting to the Champions League group stages. Mark Warburton is trying to talk Julian Lescott into joining Rangers. And Hibs boss Neil Lennon says he expects even more bids to come in for Jason Cummings before the end of the month. That's just a few of the talking points. Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin, will be discussing with our bookroom guest tonight. I'm delighted to say St Johnstone's Chris Millar is with us here in the studio. So let's cut to the chase of a game that is a £20 million game. Rich rewards if Celtic can mix it with Europe's elite, Ruffy.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the season, I think a lot of people were a bit worried, that the main signings hadn't come in. Obviously Tourie's come in at the back and Sinclair's come in. It's a different Celtic team now, from the last time they were playing in Europe. It was one man up front. I think it's going to be Griffiths and Dembele. They're going to have Sinclair wide, possibly Forrest on the other side. So there's a lot of attacking options there, whereas I think when Ronnie Daley was there, it was like two sitting midfielders and particularly at home. So I think the Celtic fans will be hoping that there's a big performance tonight.
Yeah, Chris, I wouldn't bet against your manager keeping a close eye on this one tonight because you get them at the weekend.
Yeah, interesting to see how they go tonight. Obviously, we've got the rest with having no game and not being in Europe this year. So, I'll catch a game myself, have a look and see how they're going. But I think Celtic, they're really starting to hit their stride now. A lot of pace in the team. Sinclair wide, Forrest, Griffiths, Dembele. So, good attacking options. I think with the game, I think not to concede an away goal is obviously massively important, but the ability to try and win it and take a good result into the next leg.
Yeah, you mentioned again, Ruffy, on last night's programme as well, you expect Toure to be in there. Zviachenko's got a chance to come straight back into that lineup. And a lot has been made of no Effie Ambrose in the 25-man squad, along with the likes of Chris Commons excluded from the team. But Effie Ambrose is a significant one because that, for me, is a statement of intent from the manager.
Yeah, I think the rumours are that there had been bids for him from other teams, and I think if the player's honest enough, sometimes you're at a club and things don't go well for you. And I think he's a good player. I think he's got loads of ability. He's just one unfortunate player who's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and sometimes that happens to you at a club, and sometimes the best thing is to move on. So it looks as if Brendan Rodgers is just gradually taking his time, and I wouldn't like if he does leave, I would hope he would leave, with the fans giving him a good departure, because, as I said, any time he's played, he's given his best shot. Yeah,
probably, Chris, you'll know this better than anybody. Sometimes players come in and the expectation level at certain clubs, sometimes players just can't rise to it.
I think with Effie Ambrose, he's one of those players, no matter what he does, he can play well for 85, 88 minutes, and it just seems that he always makes that mistake that is glaring, that costs a goal or gives away a penalty or just something like that. And when that tag sticks, it's hard to shake that. I think he's speaking to players he's popular among the dressing room. He seems like a really nice guy, but if it's going to be a case where he's not going to play, it might be best for him to move on and best to start something fresh.
Yeah, okay. You still think Celtic will need 2 goals in this one, Ruffy?
I think 2 goals would be very, very comfortable. And looking at the past records at this stage, 2 goals is the best they've ever had against the Swedish side. So, settle for 2. There seems to be no 4 and 5 nothings anymore. So, 2 and being confident enough to go away from home, and as they were in the last round, and were competent in everything they done. They were never under pressure, you thought, although they got the goal at the corner, but they saw out the game quite comfortable, and you wouldn't think a Celtic team would lose 3 goals away from home.
Yeah, and just touching on it, the general feeling, I have a friend who watches Israeli football, is the type of team that will come in and just try and soak it up, frustrate, as they did against Olympiacos in the last round, Chris.
I think that's a difficulty that Celtic will have with being at Celtic Park first. It's if the crowd get frustrated, if it's saying nothing each at half time and they're not really creating many chances, and that's when tension can come into the game, that can spill onto the park. So I think for Celtic fans to be patient, it's not going to be won tonight, it's a 2-legged affair, so be patient, and biggest thing for me is not to concede that away goal and try and score, but I think they'll need to score when they're over there as well.
Yeah, okay. Now, if you're a Rangers fan waking up in the morning, Ruffy, you always like to see some concrete evidence of a potential signing target because, as you know, sometimes, and Chris, you'll get to know this more than most, sometimes journalists take little flyers. But when you see Mark Warburton sitting down in a picture with Jolie and Lescott, I don't think they've just managed to meet somewhere by chance.
No, and then looking at the picture, the photographer must have been underneath the table when he took the photograph, so he must have been trying to keep it out of sight. But no, it's there for everybody to see, and he just has to persuade them. I believe that Sunderland are interested in him as well. So, I mean, again, that Premiership pool might just be the one that knocks it in the head, but I'm sure he'll be doing as good a job as possible to try and convince them that coming to Rangers would be a good move.
Yeah, well, I think if anything, the talk of a 2-year deal, and the manager has to persuade him as well. And I think there is an element of persuasion of saying, well, okay, you could, the money is undoubtedly the driving force. If Sunderland want to offer him, anywhere near £50,000 a week, Rangers not going to compete with that. The deal's dead then.
You just can't compete financially, but I think the stature of the club like Rangers, obviously the players they've brought in, Barton, Cranshaw, and I think Julian Lescott, I think he knows Kenny Millar. I think I heard that somewhere. So I think he'll have been in his ear tell how good it is at the club, the set up at Murray Park, and Rangers sells itself as a club, but end of the day it'll be where the player wants to take the hit financially and just come up to sample that, playing in front of that atmosphere of the old firm games. So I think if they get him, it'll be a brilliant signing, and I think that's an area where Rangers have been weak last year and even maybe a bit this year.
Yeah, of course, if you are indeed looking to try and build a team, Ruffy, they always say you got to try and get that spine right. You can see why Mark Warburton wants a centre half and a striker. He's obviously going to have Martin Waghorn back very shortly as well, but with Joe Garner, that's another bit of competition, and Lescott, and then you've got Barton in the middle of the park as well.
Yeah, so we're talking about Effie Ambrose. Once you get labelled as that kind of player who is going to do something wrong, Rangers, unfortunately, with their own doing, have come into that same category as well. Defensively, teams will look at them, and the vulnerable bit of the team at this moment seems to be balls into the box, and they're losing goals. They lost it at the Hibs game, they've lost it this season. So he's identified that that's the kind of player they need to go in there. And if somebody with that kind of experience, as is like Toure at Celtic, it can only help you.
And I did mention one Joey Barton there. I think it's going to be very interesting over the course of the season because he's not shy of a quote or two. He's had a little dig at Brendan Rodgers. I think he's maybe gone too early in the cranking it up for the Rangers Celtic match, Chris. But he said he hasn't met him yet, and he doesn't quite run into the places that Brendan goes. I think the suggestion was maybe tanning salons and places where you groom yourself to look good.
I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a bit of pride in your appearance, as you can see yourself.
Brilliantly, diplomatically out of an area. And I love the way you shimmied out of Warwick. That could have been a minefield, by the way.
No, I think Joey's obviously, what he's like, following Twitter, and he's got something to say on every issue, hasn't he? But which I think is great. You need characters. I think sometimes in football you can take yourself too seriously, and he obviously does, but he likes to mix it up and wind people up, and he's obviously throwing a few jabs at early doors just test the waters.
And another thing about it, which I think sometimes might be lost in a few people, is he's a good player.
He is. He was, he played in the Championship last year. He was their Player of the Year. I was watching some of the players talk about him on the Sunday supplement on Sky, and they were saying what a great character is about the dressing room. Always want to lead. Always want to talk to the young players, and so They get into the Premiership and he was their best player, so he's got so much to offer. And I'm just looking forward to coming up against him and testing yourself against players like that's what you want to do. Yeah,
absolutely. And the Glasgow derby can't come quick enough. I think at that point he might just shut down his Twitter, Ruffy. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he should.
The week before?
Yeah, but, because we want to see him on this. We want to see him on the park. We want to see the player on the park. We don't want to be things building up before that game, and then all of a sudden a wee incident happens on the park and it gets blown out of proportion. So let's concentrate on the football, and then he can tweet after the game. Yeah,
just one wee footnote to that. He did say that he felt as if the treatment of Manchester City's Joe Hart was disgusting. I'm not too sure I agree with that, Ruffy. I think Joe Hart is like anyone else. If the manager doesn't fancy you, the game's up.
Yep, particularly in the modern day now, it looks as if to be. You have to be more than just stopping shots. You have to be more to your game. And this manager obviously feels as if he isn't the goalkeeper that he's looking for. And I'm sure Joe Hart will get another club. I don't think it'll be a problem for him.
Yep. Okay, we are going to talk St Johnstone coming up after the break. We'll get the thoughts of Chris on a fantastic start to the season, continuing where they left off at the end of last season. We'll also get a quick update on his injury as well. Join us after the break on Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our bookroom guest is St Johnstone's Chris Millar. Okay, let's get the update then. It was reported as a slight groin problem. What's the latest?
Yeah, felt it obviously against Motherwell at the weekend, and just in about 7 minutes played a pass out wide and just felt something that was quite right. So, given my last year's history with my injuries, we sent us for a scan. Turns out it's minor, very minor, just a wee groin strain. So, you know, I'm hopeful to be back next week, back into training. I think Saturday will come. It's a wee bit too quick. Rest up, watch your boys, and hopefully cheer them on to a victory.
Yeah, I mean, psychologically for footballers, sometimes it can get tremendously frustrating, especially if you've picked up the odd niggle. I mean, I think you played something like 23 games last season, not as many as you would have liked.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the word, frustration, because everybody wants to talk about it. That's especially the way it went last year. You know, 23 games. You know, it still contributed to the team over the season. But for myself, it just the way it went. It would stop, start constantly, and it becomes an issue. And people are, and especially when it comes to age, people start saying, "Oh, maybe you're on your way." But
yeah,
it's a muscular thing that happened. And
Do you think the modern day player now is more conscious of looking after themselves? Whereas maybe 5 years ago you might have picked up that injury and just battered on for the next 20 minutes. Now you say to yourself, well, it was a long term.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think that's part of it as well. And even the way it went for me last year, now I'm definitely, it's in my head where if I feel something like that, I don't want it to kind of keep me out for much longer and rather come off. You know, and I think I do a lot more now, more prehab, try to look after myself better, and I think I'm getting 33, the gaffer is more aware of it as well. He's like, right, well, maybe you can't do as much, maybe tailoring your training a wee bit, maybe don't play as much games, you know, and if, you know, I'm looking to get as many games as possible this year, but I want to make sure that I'm fit and ready, and when I'm playing I'm at 100%.
Yeah, I've mentioned mind over matter because quite simply if people bash on about it, you know, I mean, my favourite line of the last month or two has to be Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He said, "I'm 34, I'm just getting started."
That comes from a guy who's, you know, won everything wherever he's been. So I think there is definitely, players look after themselves better, the sports science is better, they look after their diets better. So, you know, I feel really good. I've had a great pre-season. I've just picked up a wee niggle, and that's the way it's went. You know, it's not the hamstring, which was last year's. I've picked up a wee groin strain, and for me that's all it is. You know, I want to get over it as quickly as possible and get back helping the team, because there's competition for places, there's competition within that midfield, and I don't want to be out too long if I'll find myself sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah, what about the Tommy Wright factor here? Because suddenly you're in a situation, you're unbeaten, 7 games. Over and above that, I think it stretches back to something like 12 when you take into consideration last season. He just seems to be able to get the best out of a squad, which, you know, the team doesn't have riches to call on.
Mm-hmm. I think he knows his players well. I think he's got a good spine within there. You know, Steve McLean, myself, Stephen Anderson, Alan Manis at the back just now as well, and goals. So there's great experience. I think Danny Swanson has been on fire. He scored 5 or 6 goals already. And adding to that, the boy he's signed, Paul Payton, great experience. Michael Coulson came in. Keith Watson was St Mirren's player of the year last year. Young Chris Kane. So Blair Alston at Falkirk. We've got good players as well, but good experience, and I think the gaffer just gets the best out of us every year. He's got a tight squad, and we all know our jobs, and I think that's one of the things that really helps us.
Yeah, it's good highlighting that, because I'm a fan of Payton's when he's got his head on the game, Ruffy. You know, and all those players, Blair Alston especially, you know, just plucking players that he sees something in them that can fit into that structure.
Well, I mean, every time we sit here on a Saturday doing the Saturday show and we look at the fixtures, the first thing we always say is, when we come to your fixture, is it's a fixture I wouldn't want Do you know what I mean? Do you feel as if the teams now begin to realise that there's no easy points when they come to play yous, whether it's home or away? You seem to have that mentality now that is the team, you know, in the league that you're going to get the hardest game at.
I think it's one of those ones where it is a difficult game. You know, we work really hard and we make it difficult. We get players behind the ball, and I think we always try and first and foremost work hard and be hard to beat. And then, but once you try and win those battles, that's when you try and kind of go and play and be a bit more adventurous. But I think one of the things as a gaffer is not scared to make changes. Even if you win this Saturday, you might not necessarily start the following week because he might see somebody suited better. He's spotted a weakness, or he said it watched and thinks, well, I can get him here, so maybe this player will suit that team a bit better.
Yeah.
So I think it's not a case of we go with the same trusted tried and 11 all the time. Sometimes he makes changes based on whoever we're playing.
Just on that point, I wouldn't profess to know him, you know, in any great depth at all. But you've mentioned the qualities that he has in switching things when he needs to. What type of manager is he? Is he an individual man manager? Is that a great skill that he has as well?
I think so. I think he always comes in, talks to players, always good about the dressing room, has jokes with everybody, you know. And I think one thing that, you know, he has that great relationship, but I think one of the things he demands more is respect. I don't think any of the players would cross him, you know, do anything like that, because he's quick to pick up on it and he'd be quick to have you in his office and let you know exactly what he thinks you've done wrong. So I think he demands great respect for his players. Yeah,
that's a great line from our area. It's one of those guys you wouldn't take on in a dark alley, Ruffy. It's as simple as that. I think that kind of sums it up. It's a compliment, Tommy, just in case you're miffed by it. Okay, from St Johnstone to some of the other little bits of transfer news I want to get your thoughts on, lads. Jason Cummings, Hibs boss Neil Lennon says he expects more than a few people still sniffing around and bids to come in before the end of the month.
Yeah, well, let's hope they're as strong as what they have been already, you know. And I would like to think that 16,000 of a support that was there at the weekend is evidence that they want to see success. And with players like Cummins, you need them, you know. And I think the fans, he's a big fans' favourite, so you've got to take all that into consideration. I know an outrageous bid, they would really have to look at it, but I think Hibs have already made their mind up. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's one of those players, you know, when you, I mean, Dundee's Paul Hartley's got the particular problem at the moment because, you know, a couple of players go and he now has to try and find replacements. The huge hole of Cummings when you consider his goals tally.
And that's what wins you the games, isn't it? It's the guys that score your goals. That's why they go for the bigger fees in general. And Cummins is that for Hibs. You know, and you're saying that Dundee, you're losing so many goals out their side. How do you replace that? You have to then go out and buy a striker yourself, or you have to have somebody ready, fit, made. You know, James Keaton's obviously is done well for them as well. But I think Graham Cummins is a kind of talisman up there, and I think he relates to the, as your face says, he relates to the fans. And I think it'd be a real show intent for Hibs if they knock back all off and says no, he's here for a season. And is it worth more financially for them to keep him for another season, try and get promotion, and then move him on for the following season? If I was Liam Lynn, that's what I'd be looking to do.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a sensible attitude to it. Many a footballer, Ruffy, has followed the trail of the money.
Yeah, they have, but I think now that I think Neil said a word with him. I think Alan Stubbs was a big influence on him. I think he's now young enough to say to himself, look, I could be here another year and then move on. You know, if these clubs, if he keeps maturing and keeps scoring goals, you know, who's to say bigger clubs won't come in for him? And I'm sure that's what the managers will be saying to him.
Okay, Dundee have had another bid for Stephen Mallon rejected by St Mirren. Alec Ray clearly digging his heels in. I think they're looking for around about £200,000 for him.
Yeah, and quite rightly so. You know, if you're going to lose a player of that quality, you've got to get the right money in, and that's a big year for Alec as well, and for St Mirren. That's going to be a fantastic league this year, and he'll need every player he can get.
Yep, and he's a tricky player as well. You can see exactly why Paul Hartley's interested in him, Chris.
You know, the thing that stands out for me is his goal from last year when he went on that mazy and stuck it away. St Mirren, I think, have got a great squad there, and they'll be up there challenging. So I think when you've got a player and you value him, you've got to stick to that. And if obviously Dundee are want to push it, then they have to meet the asking price.
Yeah, listen, I can't let the show finish without mentioning, I saw the photograph this morning, the chairman of the PFA, John Rankin. Apparently Falkirk fans can win a competition, Ruffy. They can watch Falkirk against Dumbarton in a hot tub. And of course Ranks, no stranger to showing his body off. He's there with a six-pack in full display. I'm not having that. Not even happy with it.
No, I think he was definitely happy with it. You know. But no, we keep talking about clubs doing something different for their fans, and I don't know where that hot tub's going to be, you know. But particularly if visiting fans or whatever, so it better be in a significant place when you're sitting there watching the game.
Yeah, dare I say it, if it catches on, I can see a Channel 4 programme coming out of it anyway. On that note, I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you to Chris Millar for joining us here in the studio. Join us if you can tomorrow when another Millar, Joe Millar, will be joining us to reflect on Celtic's performance in the Champions League playoff match. From Ruffy and myself, thanks for watching. Good night.